Thank you very much, Mike. Another round of applause for Mike, please, all the way from Rwanda. I gotta tell you, Nigeria is an amazing country, but sometimes the narrative that nothing good can come out from Nigeria sometimes becomes the narrative of the day. What Andela has been able to do has shown you that that narrative is untrue, and that Nigeria has so much potential that's just waiting to be unlocked. So for those, so you gotta upgrade your skills too as well, and don't forget, resilience is absolutely key. Coming up next on our next panel, ladies and gentlemen, with
advance for the bad pronunciation, the Honorable Consul General of Kingdom of Netherlands in Lagos, Mr. Michael Delane. Thank you. Ms. Sherifa Balogun, Director, Strategy, Funding and Engagement at the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. Chairman Mbolu, a very well-known figure here in Lagos, Board Chairman of the Innovation Support Network. And Ms. Mariam Wadebe, founder of the Blue Sapphire Hub, coming all the way from northern Nigeria. Very glad to have her here with us. So maybe we do a round of questions, and then we leave a little bit the floor to the, apart from the Slido, if you agree. I will start with the Honorable Consul, if you allow me. Consul, the country of Netherlands has strong relationship with Nigeria and contributing a lot in terms of research and innovation across various sectors, among the others agriculture, for example. But it pops up in our...
Thank you very much, and great to see such a full hall here. Wow, I mean, that means people invest time, eh? Time is precious, so people invest time to be here, and I'm very, very pleased to see so many faces here. No, the Netherlands has established basically a startup incubator system that's called Orange Corners. And that came about in a bit of a strange way, that we had our embassy in Athens in Greece that had like an empty ground floor because the offices were on the first floor. And the Dutch ambassador at the time said, you know, they tell us that we should support startups and
innovators, and if there are specific challenges in the region where you're operating, and how, of course, your hub is supporting women innovators and so on. Thank you.
Okay, hello. Thank you, Margherita. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. So, Blue Sapphire is the first innovation hub in northern Nigeria. And one of the major challenges that we have been able to identify that female innovators usually face is actually an enabling environment. Enabling environment that accommodates their peculiarity, that understands their needs and be able to allow them to be able to become more innovative. So, and these are things that has to do with, okay, does it, if you're having a program, is it going to be a mixed gathering? That is one. And because there's that cultural nuance in the ecosystem that you have to be very cautious of how you're able to implement that. Is it going to be, are you going to allow me to be able to bring my child if I'm coming to a program? Are you going to, is it going to be strictly English and my English command is very low? So all these things are the enabling environment that they need. They need an environment where they can be able to actually be themselves. I cannot speak English, but I'm innovative. Can I be able to express myself? Can I be able to come with my child to your space? Can I be able to have access to female mentors in that space where they can be able to express myself, connect with them, and they are able to guide me without my spouse saying, oh, I cannot be able to mingle with this person. There is also a challenge where these women face in situations where the permission to actually attend gatherings that are mixed. That is also something. So they face this, a lot of innovators, even in as much as their ideas are good, they don't have the opportunity to actually be able to attend events because of the inability to accommodate those kind of needs. So there is expectation that when you attend an event, someone would approach you and he would say, okay, let's shake hands. And then once, by the time you said, I don't shake hands, there is that expression that, okay, he doesn't want to talk to you further. And it makes the woman usually feels this, okay, you just give them that kind of face, and they feel they are no longer confident again because of that peculiarity. So understanding those kind of things and accommodating those kind of peculiarity also is a challenge that female innovators face. And then there is also imposter syndrome. I am good, I'm capable. But then because of that imposter syndrome, I am feeling that, oh, whatever it is, I cannot be able to compete with this person because I don't dress like them, I don't speak fluently like them, I don't have access to opportunities like them. You know, a lot of funding opportunities actually comes from social life. You know someone from that social life and you want to, that is from that perspective that you get to connect, and from that connection, that's where funding opportunity comes. But a woman from northern Nigeria does not have that kind of opportunity to actually go to those kind of networking events or social events to be able to access this. So that's also a challenge that as good as an idea is, as fabulous as it's going to change the world or it's going to do something to the ecosystem, it gets to face some bottlenecks to be able to access funding and scale those ideas. And another thing is support system. Support system in such a way that, okay, whatever program that you are trying to implement in northern Nigeria, does the support system, are they aware of it? Our support systems are our parents, our spouses. Are they aware of it? Do they understand what you are trying to do? If there is no that communication around those kind of things, you will definitely face a lot of bottlenecks. And this turns back to affect the woman in the ecosystem. So in as much as they want to do great things, they are striving. At the moment, you would have a lot of innovators doing so many amazing things. But do all these things accommodate? Do our spouses understand what we're doing? Do our families really understand it? And are they included in the process? So it's not as they would stop us from doing, but it's just allowing them to give them that understanding so that they can be able to support. Like if a spouse understands that if I'm coming to this event, I'm here to speak on this event and I'm not going to break any cultural or religious nuance, then he would be able to support me. He would join me to come to Lagos. He would make sure that even if I don't have funds for the hotel, take care of that and all that. So it's just actually getting them to understand that and also accommodating that. So that's on that. And then the last one is access to financing. Access to financing is a very, very huge challenge in the ecosystem that female innovators face. And these are things that has to do, how many incubation programs have been done in the northern ecosystem that they get funded. Incubation are being executed a lot, but mostly they would happen in Kaduna, Abuja. And a woman from the core north, they believe, okay, if it is not happening in Kano, then the states from Katsina and Jigawa will not be able to come to Kano, will not be able to move all the way from Kaduna to Kaduna. So there should be a consideration of, okay, the location where these incubation programs are happening, because there's some places that they kind of like really feel more comfortable going there than moving to those other locations. So when incubation programs are happening, consider some strategic locations to be able to accommodate. So that if it is happening in the Northeast and you take an incubation program to Maiduguri, everyone will be like, oh, I don't want to go to Maiduguri. But what if it's happening in Adama? There's less attention there. So people would say, oh, I would go to Adamawa to attend the program. There's a flight that goes there because of Apti University and all that. So these are things that you need to take into consideration in designing programs to accommodate female innovators.
Thank you, Mariam. Thank you for the perspective and the insights that you are giving us. And if you agree, I will do a round of applause to the women speakers, moderators in the audience, working hard for innovation and research. And if you look at the speaker lineup, you will see that at least half of the speakers at this event are actually women. So it's actually thanks to you. And moving on to Dr. Sharifa Balogun, the Director of Strategy Engagement of Lagos State Fund Authority. Can you tell us a bit more how Lagos State is actually promoting innovation, supporting innovation, and so on? Thank you.
That's a very wide question. because the Lagos State is doing a lot across different agencies, stakeholder management. But I'll speak to what we're doing at the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, which is the arm of the fund that is dealing with reduction of unemployment, access to finance, affordable finance. I always say affordable because you would find that we're the only ones in the country that will provide single-digit loans to entrepreneurs, innovators, small businesses across the board. And also, I would speak to the business support that also happens to these entrepreneurs and also innovators. There's also LASHRIC. LASHRIC is the Lagos State Science and Innovation Research Center. There's also the Ministry of Science and Technology, which is also very, very, very invested in this space. One of the more obvious answers to the question will be the recent 1 billion funding from Lagos State government to LASHRIC for small businesses and also innovators in the tech space. At LSATF, we actually have one part of our business that we cater to innovators and the tech ecosystem, and we look at this in different angles. So Mariam spoke about incubation, which is very big. I mean, what is your idea? How can we scale this idea for you? And then we move on to, that's the ideation program where we support entrepreneurs, innovators, small businesses in coming together and saying, what do you have and what do you want to solve? And I know Mr. Dinan here mentioned that where is that space where you can actually find the specificity of what is needed for Nigeria or for Lagos or for where your own space is, and that's what we do at the Lagos Innovate, to say how can we provide a space for you to think of an idea that really will work for Lagos State. And then we move on to the workspace voucher, which is really important. The workspace voucher is an opportunity for you to have access to infrastructure, like-minded space, meet your co-workers and say, how do we build or even break down these challenges together? And then this is free. This is what the government will give to you as an entrepreneur to assist you, to put you in that space that allows you to grow and also innovate further because you see your like minds around you. And then there's the Idea Hub. This is really important to us. We provide larger access to funding, 20 million naira, 50 million naira for those who want to create co-working space for an idea that has already now scaled. So you now need more, you need a bigger space, and you want to be able to expand. And these three parts of our business, on the innovation side and technology side, really speaks to what the government is doing for entrepreneurs and innovators in Lagos State, to say, we see you, we see the struggle, because the eventuality of what you're doing is also for the betterment of Lagos State, Nigeria, Africa, and the whole world. So Lagos State, as a government, is doing that. And then there's the business support angle, where we have mentors, free master classes. Come here from those who have done it, who are still doing it, who are available for you to ask questions, reiterate, get it wrong, and then scale. Again, free, and opportunities like this are what the government is doing and investing heavily in across the ministries and agencies in Lagos State.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sharif. Charles, Innovation Support Network, 198 hubs in your network. That's impressive. Can you tell us more about this network and how you actually support the hubs in your network?
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Charles Mbolu. I am a founder of 2 innovation hubs across Nigeria. One is called Raw Nigeria Hub, which we founded in partnership with the University of Nigeria in a place called Enugu State. And another one, Tech West, is based here in Lagos. By virtue of having founded those innovation hubs, sometime in 2018, a few of us started talking about being able to foster
or enhance the capabilities of the hubs and their ability to support the spaces that they want to support, I mean the people that they want to support. And ISN was formed, okay? And initially it was called Hub Owners Network, and then Hub Owners Village, and it kept moving like that. And sometime in 2019, 75 hubs eventually came together under an umbrella called Innovation Support Network. And ISN was born about 5 years ago. And the basic, some of the core reasons why we decided to come together is that the entire innovation hub, innovation, incubation, acceleration, and all those type of stuff is relatively new, even across the world, but even more so locally here in Nigeria. I still remember those early years. I think that one of the first programs we ran in 2015 with TechQuest, we had to borrow some of the laptops from Andela, which was in CC Hub at the time, and next door was Idea Hub, which was founded by Nigeria's government at the time, which is now moribund. So at the time, there were very little support systems. There were very few opportunities to, discuss things around innovation and business support or entrepreneurship support in the way and manner that we do today. So, and even if you talk about tools and resources, many of us knew about the Silicon Valley model, the European model. For me specifically was the Vinnova from Sweden and stuff like that. But if you looked around locally, then you had less and less people that understood what it meant to support businesses in that way. There was very little funding available. I still remember the times when 100K for a startup investment was very big. And even the tools like documents, agreements that enabled you on board a venture, a startup, founders, what kind of agreements do they get into? And then for you, the hub, what kind of agreement do you get into with them to incubate them or to accelerate them and take them through that journey, whether it was 3 months or more? Then the curriculum, business model canvas, and a lot of those kind of things that enable the startups to even be able to think through their business and improve and grow those businesses. Then the skills that were required. For most of us that started about that time, we didn't plan to become digital skills hubs, but we had to, because for you to build, you needed to most times embed some element of technology, even if it's just use of technology, like simple tools like BlackBerry at the time and WhatsApp, to even be able to communicate or reach your customers. And understanding these things and enabling sharing between the hubs and learnings that would make you be able to grow, to succeed, and not have to reinvent the wheel with every founder or every business that you try to support, meant that coming together was a very brilliant idea. And there was also a forerunner, which I would like to mention, because at the time we had AfriLabs, which was already bringing incubators and innovators, accelerators across the continent, and we sat down together and we started thinking of how do we come together under this umbrella to grow. And today, from the first coming together in 2019, we are now 198 organizations strong across 31 states of Nigeria. And these hubs are focused on different sectors. Today, I've heard health tech, I've heard agric, I've heard all sorts of creative sectors. I've even heard the space, which is a conversation I would like to have, is to say, how do these startups focusing on different sectors in different geographies, improve the work that they do in supporting businesses? So it's an ongoing conversation, and I can tell you it's still very early days. I think last week we were having conversations in Abuja, and a few things came up from that was signed just barely 2 years ago, and the implementation, and then the African Continental Free Trade Area, after, which enables trade across continents. We had the Andela guy talk about how the Andela started from Nigeria, but also began to do business and equip talent from across the continent. So how do businesses in Nigeria, for instance, gain market access in Kenya, sometimes they don't know where to go. And going through the innovation hubs, they can get that support that they need. They can get the training that is required. They may get the funding. They may find the talent, and it provides them also access for them to be able to engage for the different subsectors, including government and the private sectors. I'll stop here for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Before moving to the second round of questions, is there any question from the audience?
Understand yourself, you begin to do better things with the platform. They would begin to, at least, even if they don't allow you to go out, but at least cut some slack on you to continue chasing your dreams through the initiatives. And that's what we have been doing. We do online trainings using, and one of the things that we see is internet access is also a challenge. So what we do is we try to utilize like the WhatsApp medium, which is the most convenient platform to engage this to go there. But with the WhatsApp communities, they can be able to continuously learn, and they feel more comfortable using that channels to continuously learn. So we can take on the conversation after this to discuss further on, but you don't quit. You keep on trying and try other alternatives until you achieve your dreams and goals.
Thank you, Mariam. Please. Do we have any other question? Yes, I see the gentleman on the front row. Two gentlemen.
Hello. All right. I'm Salis Yusuf, Marine and Blue Economy. What is the state doing in terms of marine and blue economy? As in, is there any collaboration looking at the unhealthy practices going on in that ecosystem? What is the Lagos State government?
National innovation ecosystem and be able to deliver that. And I can tell you today that that project is ongoing as a support, direct support from the EU co-funded program under DTC. And then the second one I would like to mention is also that earlier this year we had the Omniverse Summit here. And some of the issues is the fact that for the different sectors that have been touched on today, they typically work in silos. So the creatives are working on their own, the agri people, the core tech people, and it becomes a very big issue, and you lose all the benefits that you could get from that synergy because they don't talk to each other. So we, working with the ecosystem again, we developed the Omniverse Summit, which was a huge success and holds every year, recurrent every February. And from that, we've already had lots of success stories from the different segments, whether it was the deal room or the policy conversations or even the on-stage talks, and even we had the creative conference within the summit. And this was also is a success story for this collaboration and cooperation. But the final point, which I would use to talk about the success story that you talked about, is the Tech My Biz, which is basically, it was a pitchathon that was implemented by the DTC again, but brought in together entrepreneurs and founders from across the country. And out of that, there was a winner for that, and it's called E-Corporate Services by a Northern Nigerian female founder, which basically solves a problem that maybe 80% of typical people or businessmen in this room has, which is the fact that every year you have to file your pension commission, ITF, NSITF, all those problems that a typical business has. This particular businesswoman and her team have figured out a way to make it seamless and make it a single point of contact for the service. And for me, that would be a typical, a very good example of how this showcases the quality and the possibilities that exist when we engage and cooperate together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks to all our panelists. And we leave the floor to the next session. Yes. Thank you so much, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, permit me, I forgot to tell you all to put a round of applause for yourselves Even though the rain is falling down in Lagos, you are among the brave, the bold, and the beautiful who are able to brave the weather and the storm to be here. You know how we say in Lagos, if you can't hear it, it is fine. But if you can't hear it, it's bad. But even with the weather, you're here. So we thank you so much, and we don't take your presence lightly. We'll be starting off with our very first session for today. It's going to be an hour-long session. And it's the EU, Nigeria, ongoing successful R&D projects. Now, this session will showcase the thriving research and development collaborations between the European Union and Nigeria, highlighting a range of successful projects across various sectors. Now, driving that conversation, please make a warm round of applause welcome for Laurent Boucheroux, Minister, Council of Science, Technology, and Innovation Delegation of the European Union to the African Union. Keep your hands together. Thank you so much, sir. And good morning.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. Good morning, Commissioner. It was very inspiring to hear your words, and I would like to thank the organizers for setting up this impressive, vibrant event, including music and poetry, which is not always the case. It's my honor to moderate this session. I work in the EU, so the delegation of the European Union to the African Union. I'm based in Addis Ababa, monitoring the vibrant cooperation that exists between the two continents in the fields of higher education, science, and innovation. So I would like to introduce and call the panelists who have agreed to speak on this panel. This panel is about success. There will be other discussion later about failures or about obstacles or about problems. But today, this morning, it's all about success and success stories. And 5 distinguished panelists have been identified. So I would like to ask them to come to the podium. So first of all, Professor Oyebola from University of Ibadan. Okay. From University of Ibadan, he will tell us about the project he's involved in. He's the key expert for Africa on aquaculture. So we're very happy to have him with us today. So the second panelist today is Professor Sylvanus Okop-Benin, who is the Chief Medical Director at the Arua Teaching Hospital, and is involved in a very important new project on developing clinical trials to fight against Lassa fever. We will hear about this later. The third distinguished panelist is Professor Ajadi from Obafemi Awolowo University. I hope I said it right. He's an artificial intelligence expert, mathematician, and we spoke about artificial intelligence yesterday. Is one of the key actors in the country and is involved in Erasmus projects. We talked about this yesterday, the capacity building project that exists, and we'll hear more about this. Fourth panelist is Dr. Maruf Sani. He was mentioned several times yesterday. He's the national contact point for the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions that were also mentioned several times yesterday. He works at the Ministry for Innovation, Science and Technology. Last but not least, we have Oyibo from Nigeria, another one on the panel. Is Dr. Margherita Trestini. She's an entrepreneur. Margherita, please. Entrepreneur, she's a general manager, and she has been involved in projects, but she's also the national contact point for Nigeria for different parts of Horizon Europe, dealing with helping small and medium enterprises to get funding. So an interesting speech. So before we start, and I will ask each of the panelists to present who they are, how they got involved in some EU Nigeria projects, describe the project, and also show why it's a success, because that's the theme for our panel today. And then we will take questions from the audience. But before we start, I would like to remind you that Nigeria has been an active partner in the Research and Innovation Program for many years. In the previous program, Horizon 2020, that finished in 2020, there were 31 participation from individual teams for total funding of 5 million euros, but a success rate of only 9%, which is below the average. In the current program, there has been a significant improvement of the success rate, which has now reached 14%, still below the average, so still room for improvement, but much better than the previous program. And there are already, as we are halfway in the implementation of the program, more participation than for the all 7 years from the previous period. So we have now 38 participation, and 11 million have been received by those participants so far. So more than doubling already, as we have only halfway in the implementation. So I will stop here my presentation, but you understand that although the participation is good and the success rate is better, there is much better to be achieved when you know the level of research and innovation in Nigeria. So this session is about exciting people to become part of future proposal. So we will hear testimonial from those who are currently in ongoing projects, but they will share with you some tips about how you can become the participant of the future projects. So without any further ado, I will now ask Professor Oyebola from the University of Ibadan to give the first presentation, a project called Insightis on circular food production system in cities. Quite a revolutionary idea. So, Professor, you have a micro?
Thank you very much. That's for a great introduction. Well, I'm Dr. Oyebola Olusegun. I'm a senior lecturer at the University of Ibadan in the Department of Aquaculture and Fisheries Management. My department is the Center of Excellence for Teaching and Learning for African Union AU-IBA. I'm currently participating in two EU projects. Specifically, I'm participating in the Horizon and one Erasmus program. But I will talk more on the Horizon. To start with, how did I get there and what actually worked to get it there? The current project is the Institute's Food Project, and it contains over 22 consortium members from AU and EU. It's a huge number of people coming together to work on improving the food system in our cities. And getting there is an issue of collaboration, and that's the key. And I want to hammer is that not just collaboration, but learning to continue despite failures. I got invited to participate on this particular proposal from someone who we had collaborated with earlier, and the proposal did not scale through. So when another opportunity came up, he remembered people that have worked with him, and that is Aglo Development Center. They invited me again and said, oh, there is another opportunity, and then we put in for it, and it worked out. But what made it to actually work out is because we decided not to look at differences, but we look at the strengths. And in writing the proposal, we are more objective and not political. These are some of the key things, because reviewers will not look at where they want to see the composition, they want to see the quality of the people that are on the project, they want to see how well the project is addressing the key issues in Africa, especially because we are focusing on Africa. So it was a more objective thing, and it really worked well because consortium members really understand what they are in for and were able to bring those things together to get the proposal out for a review. It has been a success story because everybody knew what they were doing from the beginning, and we were all moving towards achieving it at every point in time. I think I want to stop there for now.
Well, thank you. You didn't tell us much about what will come out from the project in terms of new food system in cities, as we are in Lagos.
Oh,
what can
okay.
you expect in Lagos that would be different at the end of your project?
Okay, what is coming out of in-cities, let me just say some things about the in-cities food project, and that would be very good for me. The in-cities project is an innovation that is looking out one simple question: what can we do to improve the food system in African cities? Looking at the food situation, malnutrition condition, high number of malnutrition, great problem of food. The conventional agriculture, which uses rural area, cannot satisfy us again, because industrialization is also going to those areas, and bringing food from the rural environment to the city is also, the food loses some value, some micronutrients are lost, and so we must produce food within city environment. And production of food within city environment has challenges, because the cost of getting the land and the technology that we use to avoid waste. So the system, with technology we are bringing up, combines fish, and fish waste is used to service the vegetables, and the insect is used to reduce the cost of production for the fish production. And everything goes in a circular and integrated form. Now we are trying to, from the project, we will bring up liquid fertilizer from the insects, which what we have done now presently, we have produced fish and produced vegetable without the use of soil and without the use of fertilizer. In a way, we are coming to organic production of food in the city, which is more healthier. And we are also producing vegetables, even using those waste. We are trying to look at different technology by which we can bring up some of the existing waste and turning them to wealth. And that is what Institute Food is trying to bring up. I believe I said it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You very much for being so precise. Let me now move to our second panelist, Professor Sylvanus Okop-Benin, who is Chief Medical Director at the Rua Hospital. You're involved in a clinical trial funded by the EDCTP. So please tell us about you and the project.
Yeah, I'm Sylvanus Okop-Benin. I'm a professor of obstetrics and gynecology. I'm a professor of obstetrics and gynecology at the Irua Specialist Teaching Hospital. I was the former chief medical director. I completed my tenure last year, so there's a new one now. But I'm the chairman of the technical working group of our Institute of Viral and Emergent Pathogens Control and Research, and the principal investigator in the Integrate Consortium project. The Horizon EU project I'm involved with is a clinical trial. We call it an adaptive platform clinical trial, where we are searching for new drugs or to repurpose drugs for the treatment of Lassa fever disease. If you're in Nigeria, you will have heard of Lassa fever disease, and you would have heard of the Iro Specialist Teaching Hospital. It's a disease that has been on for about 55 years, and there's no data-proven drug for treatment. So the research I'm doing, it's to look for a new drug or repurpose an old drug for treatment of Lassa fever. I'm working on this project with collaborators from Nigeria, from West Africa, Liberia, Sierra Leone, from Europe, in Germany, in France, University of Bordeaux, Alima, and we've all come together to try to do a GCP-compliant adaptive platform clinical trial to find a new drug for Lassa. We've been working on this for a couple of years now, and already there's been quite some achievement. Just networking alone gives you and our project a global perspective. It gives work some recognition. Already some of the works we have done has helped shape the national guidelines for management of Lassa fever, both in Nigeria and the WHO guidelines. They've been shaped according to some of the works that we have done. And this has helped to improve the survival for patients who have Lassa fever. It's also helped us build strong capacity for research. Now we can boast of quite a few people who are knowledgeable in our institution to conduct a GCP-compliant clinical trial. We've improved our laboratory capacity by being able to do some molecular diagnosis, sequencing, analysis of blood tests to be able to see which drug really performs better with Lassa fever. So overall, just doing this project alone builds personal capacity, builds capacity for the institution, and the thought that one day, sooner than later, we're going to be able to get a drug that is truly effective against Lassa fever is just for me very awesome. And that's part of the things that we're doing, working on this project. Then, like I often say, Lassa fever is endemic in many communities in Nigeria and in West Africa. It's limited to just this region. And therefore, to be able to gather the world together to find an answer to a problem that is truly within West Africa, I think is really awesome. And I think if we can do this, where we've already made so much successes, then I think it's really mind-blowing. I think I'll stop at that for now.
Thank you very much. When we spoke earlier, you explained that the project is about to start, and we wish that you will be able to develop that miracle drug that we have been looking for. But you explained that although you have been working on Lassa fever for many years, you were not the one that designed fully the project. You were invited by other groups to be part of the consortium, and this bid was the winning bid. So congratulations again for being part of it. But how long will it take you to be the one in the future able to coordinate from scratch a proposal in response to a call? Is that something you feel ready to? And if not, what else would you need to develop?
Thank you. I think this is a very important question because there's something we always want to do. We want to take ownership of the project. We want to ask the questions. We want to answer questions that are truly ours. One thing I discover about big projects, multi-center and multi-country projects, particularly clinical trials, they're not easy to coordinate. A lot of capacity has to be built to be able to coordinate that. But we truly look forward to building that capacity in a short while and being able to ask the questions and build up that kind of network. So far, I think a lot has been gained in building that kind of network. Today, I can tell you we have partners in West Africa, we have partners in Europe, and I can assure you that in some calls to come, sooner rather than later, we will be the ones inviting partners to join us in making those calls. There will be aspects of this study that we may not be able to carry out in Nigeria, or we may not be able to analyze. They will call partners to join us so we can jointly find an answer to that. Rather than partners calling us to join, we will be calling partners to join us. But it's always a collaboration. It's always networking. I made a presentation once and I said, look, if you want to jig with the big boys, then you have to collaborate. And I think that's the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So maybe artificial intelligence may help you to do this in the future. So that's a transition to the next speaker. Professor Ajadi, please tell your story. You're a mathematician by training, but you're here because you're part of a successful projects on Erasmus project dealing with embedded artificial intelligence system.
Thank you, Dr. Laurent. Good morning, everybody. I'm Suraju Olusegun Ajadi. I'm a professor of applied mathematics from the Obafemi Awolowo University in Ile-Ife. I got into this project by virtue of the fact that AI is multidisciplinary in nature, and the composition of the people involved from diverse backgrounds. We have people from the health sector, from engineering, from science, and that is how I was able to get into the project. The Embedded Artificial Intelligence project is a European-Nigerian, EU-Nigerian project, which is in line with the European Union policy, fostering globalization, nationalization, and all the knowledge exchange of ideas and best practices in the view to persuade the policymakers, for further collaborations. In 2022, 8 universities won a grant, which these 8 universities are composed of 3 European universities and 5 Nigerian universities, with a view to promote higher education in embedded artificial intelligence in Nigeria. And these European universities are as follows. We have the University of Siegen, which is in Germany, and that is the international coordinator. Then we have the AAU, that is the University of Klagenfurt, which is in Austria, and we have KTH, which is in Stockholm in Sweden. And the Nigerian partners are as follows. We have the University of Port Harcourt, that is the national coordinator. And we have the University of Abuja, we have the Michael Okpara University in Umudike, then the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University in Bauchi, and last but not the least, the Obafemi Awolowo University, where I come from, and I'm the project leader for the university. Now, the aim of this project is actually to establish a Master of Science degree in Embedded Artificial Intelligence, which is capacity building in nature, and with that, we want to ensure that the regulatory body, which is the National University Commission, does its accreditation. Of course, that is still ongoing because there are still some things that we're expecting, particularly with respect to equipment that will be used in the laboratory, which is still being expected. And lastly, we have been able to develop a sustainability plan because the project is actually meant to last for 3 years. It actually kickstarted in University of Port Harcourt last year, that is February in 2023, and it's going to last till January 2026. That is a 3 years period. So we have developed a sustainability plan to enable it to continue even beyond the funding of the European Union. Thank you.
So how many, may I ask, how many students will be, you said master's students, right?
Yes, master students, yeah.
How many master's students will be trained in Nigeria at the end of this program?
Yeah, we expect as many as possible because, like I said, it is human capacity development, so it's going to be an ongoing process. As soon as we are done with the accreditation, hopefully before the end of this year, we are likely to bring in students, and of course it will be advertised among these 5 national universities that I've mentioned. So we are expecting as many, so there's no specific amount of students. It's going to be an ongoing process. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So from higher education, we now move to Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. They were presented yesterday. There are several components, some targeting individual scientists who want to do a postdoc. So it could be Nigerians coming to Europe, but it could be also European coming to Nigeria. There are also funding for staff exchange between a network of universities and research centers working on a similar area, and it's completely bottom-up. So the scientists who want to work together put together a proposal, and the third one is about doctoral studies. It's about training PhDs. So it's a number of universities coming together and developing a new program, and then providing scholarships for 10 to 15 PhD students who are recruited from all over the world to work in these universities on the new type of doctoral program. So there are others, but those are the main components under the Marie Skłodowska-Curie action. So as the NCP, how successful have you been so far to increase the participation of Nigerian scientists or universities?
Thank you very much, Dr. Lauren. My name is Mauro, by the way, and I'm a Deputy Director at National Center for Technology Management in Ile-Ife, where Professor also resides. I'm also the head of Technology Management Education and Training in that same agencies. As you rightly said, I'm also one of the NCPs, national counterpoint for Marie Curie Skłodowska Actions program. Well, as NCP, maybe I should start from the beginning. The journey started when I was looking for my postdoc. I just completed my PhD at the University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa, and I was looking for other opportunities that would allow me, further what I actually did with the PhD. So I came across a call asking for, postdoc students to apply. So I did. Of course, the first one wasn't really successful. So actually, I started from 2016 call. So I did 2016. The good thing here is I had a very good supervisor, which I also encourage whoever is interested to also, go through that route. Look for a very good supervisor, because she was the one who was actually encouraging me to apply again. Because personally for me, I wanted to give up because the competition was very, very high, very, very steep. So the first one in 2016 wasn't successful. So then she mailed me and said, Mauro, do you want to try again? I said, why not? So we try once again. So 2017, no show. So again, we tried. So until we got to 2019, that was when we were able to, make the cut. So mine was in Italy with the European Institute of Environment and Economics. They were based in Milan. They have two offices basically, but one is in Venice, the other one is in Milan. So that was where the program was held. As Lauren rightly said, there are various programs under MSCA. You have the co-fund, you have the doctoral network, you have the staff exchange, but mine was individual fellowship. So meaning I was basically a lone ranger. So it's an individual thing, so you go in there and you gain a lot of capacity building in that particular, area. So after the program, for me, one of the success story I would say is that after completing the program around 2020 or thereabout, I was called to be one of the NCPs, basically because of the program that I just, went through. So, and over the years now, I've been able to attend a lot of programs. Dr. Jennifer will attest to that. That's URA-ASEX. I've been on that program for quite some time, so I usually, tell other potential candidates who might want to apply to also do the same thing. Then at the same time, I've also been able to encourage other people to also, attend or to at least attempt that particular, program. Beyond that, one of the output from the projects usually, policy briefs, journal articles, then of course conference proceedings. So far so good. We've been able to publish at least, 2 papers. Then quite a number of policy briefs from that particular, project. And beyond that, what thing I also found interesting with this particular program is that it allows you to network. Usually, when as young scholars, when you start writing paper, you see a lot of scholars that you actually aspire to be. But what this program, allows you to do is to actually meet them in person. Because I actually met a lot of, scholars that have been reading their, journals in person, and were able to collaborate on some, projects, so to speak. So again, too, this particular program has also, exposed me to be able to have a good grasp of how do you write, good grant proposals. And so far so good, we've been able to one or two, proposals with regards to that as well. So I would say it's a very good program for whoever might be interested in it. It's especially for the young scholars. It's actually very, very important. So I will stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, one lesson: to be successful, you need to fail first, right? It's important because a lot of countries, once you fail, you finished. You never try again. But actually, failure is often ingredient for success, and this is true for scholarships, but also for entrepreneurs, as we know. And we have an entrepreneur on the panel, Ayubu, from Nigeria. Margherita, you are an entrepreneur. You are also involved in different projects and in different capacity as NCP as well. So please tell us.
Good morning, everybody. Apodissi, I'm Margherita Trestini, I'm GM and co-founder of Apodissi, which is an SME. And very often when you think of research and innovation projects, you only think of academics, research centers, but in almost any Horizon Europe project, you will also find industry partners. Very often it's incentivized that the SMEs, both from Europe and Africa, are partners of these projects. Civil society organization, NGOs, and so on. We are involved currently in 2 Horizon Europe projects, both of them in the farm to fork area, so clean agriculture. One is called Practice. Actually, we are here, we also have here another partner of this project with University of Maribor, computer scientist. I think I see Domen on the back, yes, from Slovenia. Practice is working on agroecology practices for smallholder farmers with 3 living labs in East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And our role specifically in the project is leading the dissemination and communication activities, meaning all the activities that ensure the visibility and the widest possible dissemination of the activities and results across different stakeholders. For example, this event is a dissemination activities, of course, but it's also all about website. We are, by the way, organizing an agroecology summit in October that will be happening online. We'll be happy to share the details. We will be in Namibia in a month at the Ruru Forum, which is again an interesting event maybe for some of the participants, which is all about 1 week of African agricultural researchers convening there. We are also partner of Ruralities, which is a coordination and support action, CSA, so which is working, it's 42 partners, half of them in Europe, half of them in Africa, which is developing training programs for smallholder farmers. We concluded in H 2020 a couple of months ago, and we are in 2 Erasmus Plus projects, but different from the ones Professor was mentioning, because they are all about vocational training program. So this is another part of the Erasmus Plus, developing projects on vocational training capacities for African institutions. We are partner here with Lagos Waste Management. We were presenting a bit of it yesterday. We are developing a green waste management training program in Ghana and Nigeria. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. What we do in this project, communication from one side. In other, or sometimes we also pilot some of the technologies that we think are relevant for the market, for the African market. For example, smart remote expert solutions, additive manufacturing, collaborative robots, so depending on the project, obviously. But these projects give us the opportunity to test, to pilot these technologies from one side. On the other side, to collaborate with centers of excellence in Africa, thinking of Makerere in Uganda, for example, ICGB in South Africa, VTT in Finland, Fraunhofer in Germany, and so on. Meaning that from capacity building, I mean, and mentoring of our own staff, they are exposed to top-notch researchers from one side, and also to build the partnerships and connections with industry players across countries. So I think it's, from different perspectives, an excellent opportunities also for private sector to participate.
Well, thank you. Quite impressive list of activities in many fields, from higher education to vocational training, research, innovation. And I'm sure
the question is this: your research output in terms of coordinating and collaborating with government agencies in Nigeria. For instance, NIPRID, we'd be interested to see how we can take this research and go to the lab, also do the testing and move to commercialization. So, is your research output open for further collaboration with agencies like NIPRID? Thank you.
okay, very specific question. Yes, please. We have two questions on the second row.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Shola Odusanya. I'm the Director General of the National Center for Technology Management. One of the, well, I have quite a number of questions, but I'll just restrict myself to two. One of the concerns of Nigerian, the medical establishment, is the absence of a clinical trial consortium. And perhaps maybe the professor will tell us a bit, but maybe I could extend it to ask what is the European response to the absence of a consortium of clinical trials consortia that can help to develop drugs specifically related to ailments that concern or confront us in our continent, and especially using Nigeria as an example. You know, because if you look at the environment, you find that there are very few efforts, you know, towards developing indigenous responses to the diseases that challenge us. You know, so I'm asking, is there a broader look at the issue of clinical trials to help to develop drugs de novo for our own use? And also, I'm also going to ask another question, and also within the area of scoping, because what my agency does is to provide policy advisory to government, among other things. And in the area of education, one of the things we see is the fact that, judging from the European experience, we see a lot of vocational education training, as well as the use of methods that are not conventional in teaching and in learning. And we see examples where those non-conventional methods help to provide education as well as skills, especially when we talk things like apprenticeships. You know, and I'm very delighted to hear from Apodissi that they are talking about some degree of apprenticeship. So again, I'm asking another scoping question, that what is the response of the European community towards restoring, in our own case, the systems that are non-conventional methods of teaching in order to acquire skills within the Nigeria and perhaps maybe the African environment.
There was a question next to you. Yes, please.
Yeah. My name is Salamut Mohammed from Federal Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology. So we have about 32 NCPs in the ministry. We attended a program organized by TED Fund on grant writing. So, and we have a lot of scientists and researchers in chemical technology, biotechnology, renewable energy, methanol technology, leather technology, and also some research and development in drones, artificial intelligence, and and even robotics. But the process of assessing the grant is very cumbersome. So I don't know what European Union is doing to make it easier for our scientists to assess these funds. Thank you.
Yes, fourth question.
Okay, my name is Dahiru Asustama. Good morning, everybody. I'm a Deputy Director from the Federal Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology. You made mention of the, failure rates of the EU, supported R&D projects. So you mentioned, I think 2020 you said 9%, and then this time maybe 14% or so. So I don't know what could be the reason for such failure, and how can we overcome such challenges? That is my question.
Okay, I think there is one hand behind, and then we will take responses.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My question is on the Masters of Science degree in Artificial Intelligence. So you mentioned one of the universities happened to be the university I graduated from. So I would like to know what are the requirements, what are actually the requirements to be part of the master's program? What are the undergraduate requirements? Sorry, I didn't mention my name. My name is Praise Okize, and I'm a communications and advocacy strategist. Thank you.
Well, thank you for all these questions. We'll see whether we have time for a second round later. I think there were two questions to Professor Stefanius, and I will let him answer this first.
Thank you very much. Very beautiful comments, and really, yes, I think it's important to collaborate with government agencies, and we should seek ways of doing that. It makes things easier for consortiums. It's just that sometimes when you're applying, you're not sure whether you'll get the grant, and so then at that stage it's mainly academics and clinicians who come together. But I think there's really an important point you have made. Collaborating with government agencies, particularly when you have gotten the grant, will facilitate a lot of things. So I think this is something I'll raise up with our consortium, and particularly with NIBRID. Like you said, we worked together during the COVID, and I think such partnership can help foster what we do in this consortium. Then, so your question too, very important question. You probably won't even realize how important that question really is, having the Nigerian consortium. Indeed, there's a Nigerian Lassa Fever Research Consortium, and that's what grew into collaborate with European partners to get this study in place. But I think what it's important is also getting the government agencies into this consortium. They may start as academic consortium to apply for grants, but I think when they have these grants, there should be room to bring in the government agencies, because they also facilitate in many ways for licensures, for approvals, for information, because when you eventually get the drugs, you will need to license, you will need to deploy, and then it becomes very important that they are incorporated at an early stage. Of course, there's the Ministerial Lassa Fever Task Force on vaccines that are working with many institutions, scientists, academicians, government agencies, that's chaired by the DG, NCDC, and co-chaired by the NAVTEC DG. I think that's an example of academicians working with government agencies to answer some of these questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If I may complete the second part of the question about development of clinical trials in Africa. I would like to remind you that this initiative, EDCTP, which stands for Europe Developing Country Clinical Trial Initiative, started 20 years ago. We just launched the third phase with a total budget of 1.6 billion euro over 7 years. 800 million come from Horizon Europe, from the health cluster. There are money as well from individual member states, but also from African states. There are 28 states contributing, mostly in kind, but sometimes also with funding. And they are also co-funding by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and charities and pharmaceutical groups. So it's a major initiative. Initially, it was focusing on the 3 main infectious diseases affecting sub-Saharan Africa, but now it's broadened to nearly all infectious disease, including what they call neglected infectious disease. So as Professor explained, there is also, it's not just, it's about capacity building in sub-Saharan Africa. And a lot of the projects are also bringing government agencies to make sure that the clinical trials are developed in the best way, and the regulation also is there in terms of ethics or in terms of approval. So we have a complete ecosystem which is nurtured for accelerating the development of drugs and vaccines to attack what we already know, but also what's coming, the next pandemics, obviously, which will probably hit us someday. So there is, and I encourage you to look at the website to see all the projects, because some of the projects, maybe Nigeria is not part of it, but there's always ways for you to try to be invited to some of the meeting and join some of the consortia on areas of interest for you. So there was another very specific question to Professor Ajadi on, you've been very successful in promoting your project because you already have people interested to join. So how can people become students in one of your master's programs?
Yeah, thank you. The entry requirement, like I told you, the program is actually regulated by the NUC, and of course, the entry requirement is as stipulated by NUC. But however, it is important to tell you that for you to be able to access the MSc degree, you need to have a good background in the science and technology related courses at a minimum of not less than 2.2, to be able to access the MSc degree. And of course, there are some universities that will also emphasize the O-level requirements that, of course, you must have it even though you have graduated. You must have the O-level requirements. So you need to conform with the NUC requirement as well as the university entry requirements to be able to join in the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Then there were 3 questions that probably can be answered by all the panelists on non-conventional education systems and vocational education and training. I think Margherita probably is best placed, but we have many professors who have probably something to say. There is a question on the success rate. Why is it not as good as we could expect? And there is a question on the how can we better support those who want to apply in the future. So let's start with the question on the education. So Margherita, if you can start.
Thank you, and thanks also for the question, because it gives me the chance to say a few more words about these Erasmus vocational training programs and calls. First of all, the scope is the whole sub-Saharan Africa or Northern Africa in terms of regional. Second of all, it promotes very clearly the twin transition, so green and digital. And the very core objective of the call, and the proposals must be aligned, of course, is to strengthen the capacity of vocational training centers across Africa. It must, any proposal must include at least one vocational center in a given country in Africa, possibly more. I have to say that there are several projects ongoing in Nigeria in this program. Other countries are much less represented. So for example, we included recently Sao Tome that has no projects at all. So Nigeria is already pretty successful. So from one side, the projects have to reinforce the trainers, so the capacity of the trainers first, and secondly, of the students, the receiver. I give you two examples in the projects we are involved in. For Green Vet Africa, that is on green waste management in Nigeria and Ghana, the program in class, online and on-site is concluded. Right now, 50 students in Nigeria, same in Ghana, are starting their internship programs in local companies. So at the very beginning of the projects, we have involved the value chain, the supply chain, asking which skills are you lacking and missing, so that when we train possible future employees and staff, we are doing based on your needs. Now, over summer, they will go through internship with these companies to apply what they learned in class. In another project, we have developed an e-learning platform that has already 1,500 members. And that's where multimedia training materials are available, obviously for free, with a certificate issued once the program is completed by the learners, but also with several interactive tools to communicate with trainers, to have online, on-spot classes, and so on and so forth. So different projects and topic of projects for training, different approaches of alternative means of learning. I hope it clarifies. Thank you.
Yes, so a combination of a kind of top-down interventions where we know that there is need, for instance, associated with the manufacturing advanced vaccines, MAV+, there is the ambition to prepare and develop further skills to make sure that we will have enough people. The African CDC has their own talent program development that we support to make sure that there will be enough people, and we would keep those people after they're trained, because there is also a brain drain issue often to make sure that we have competent people sufficiently present in Africa to run these new ambitious programs. And then we have a bottom-up program like Erasmus, the part dealing with vocational education and training. Universities and organizations can come together with a proposal on the topic they feel needs activity. So that's bottom-up. You know, we don't need to wait for governments to tell you what to do. In this case, I'm a new government, so I should not say that in a negative way. I'm saying for those who are representing universities and research organizations. Sorry about that. So I think that covers, unless one of our panelists, our professors, want to say something about what you do in terms of non-conventional education or vocational training. I'm not pushing. But on the new circular food system in cities, are you thinking of special opportunities to develop new curricula or new ways of training people?
Thank you very much. As part of the activities of the Institute's Food, we have 2 centers in Nigeria, Ibadan and Lagos here. And what we do is to undertake training for people to get to know how to produce, how to do what we are doing in their own houses. You can produce food in your house without soil, and without the use of fertilizer. And that we do training. Currently, we have trained people, we train them, we onboard them to work with us in the lab so that they also lay their hands on those things and they can do it by themselves. And at Ibadan, for instance, we have done series of training. About 48 people have been onboarded, also at Lagos here. And we are collaborating with women. We're training women. For instance, on the World Environment Day, we organize a sensitization program whereby we demonstrated and we are exposed to those people how the technology can be used to handle deforestation, desertification, and loss of biodiversity. By this coming Saturday, we'll be having training in series for youths. Because youths are no more really so much interested in agriculture because of maybe the crude way. But the technology we are using, there is no weeding. Weeding is one of the major issues in agriculture. But there is no weeding, and that particular problem is off. So we do training, and we'll continue to do training for as many that are interested. Good enough, the Oyo State government have actually bought into this, and they are trying to put it in some of the policies they want to do, because we are also driving towards sustainability. We want to drive into policy aspects so that it could be in policy that people should produce food within their houses anywhere. We don't need soil. The technology has gone beyond that. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I'll just add this. I'm not so sure how relevant it is to the topic, but I do believe a lot in mentorship as a way of learning, very active way of learning. For example, clinical trials. Even if you have a master's and a PhD in clinical trials, and you haven't conducted one or two or joined a mentor to conduct one or two clinical trials, that's going to be extremely difficult, even with the degree. So mentorship is very important. And that's simply, I get somebody working with me and doing everything that I do, and eventually they learn the ropes. Then for agriculture, we're talking about innovations. So for agriculture, I always wonder what we're training people in agriculture for when they go to ivory towers and they stay in big universities and they are learning beans is made up of 2 cotyledons, 1 cotyledon and 2 cotyledons. I don't know how they're going to be great farmers. My idea of training somebody in agriculture is to put him in a big farm with 1 or 2 classrooms. And in the morning you go to the farm, by 12 you come and take 30 minutes of lectures and you go back to the farm. But if you put them in ivory towers and you're telling them rice has 1 cotyledon, beans has 2 cotyledon, yam it's a tuber of yam, then how is it going to work in a farm? The reason why Nigerian doctors are wanted all over the world is because they are trained in the hospitals, not in the universities. So from very early, they touch patient, they know patient, they ask patient questions. They are part of giving the drugs. So I think if we really want to innovate in agriculture, we should, look, just pick some boys from the streets, put them in the farms. After 4 years, give them BSc in agriculture, rather than bring them to the classrooms and teach them about beans has 2 cotyledons. Put them in the farm. You have a lab there where they can test the soil. You have another place where they can get their machineries, learn about the tools, and they get some theory, but more or less they're in the farm working. I hope I'm relevant in what I just said.
I think. Thank you very much, Prof, for your very inspiring words, as you can see, and the Commissioner wants to reply. But before I give you the floor, and maybe you will give the concluding remarks for this session, I would like to address the 2 other questions that were asked. One was related to the low success rate or below expectation. I mean, quoting my words. And the other one was how can applicants get help? We heard yesterday about Your Access Africa, this initiative about bringing information early on about opportunities and organizing webinars and linking people. We talked about mentorship. I mean, this is also relevant for people who can get help from others who have been successful. But if I can now ask to address those two questions about how to become more successful, because that's the goal of this session, make Nigeria more successful, building of current success, and also help future applicants. And maybe first the two national contact points, if I may. Dr. Mauro.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lauren. I will quickly speak to the issue of success rates of applicants in Nigeria. Basically, we need to first understand that maybe it's the awareness. The awareness is actually not there to start with, because, for instance, now the question is how many people even apply to start with before we start talking about failure. Because in many instances, there are not really many that apply from Nigeria. So first of all, I think we need to deal with that. How do we get people to apply to the programs? Once that comes on board, then we can now start talking about are we successful or not. First, let's get people to know about this program. And once that is done, then we can begin to look at what are the success rates. That's one. The other thing is we also need to address what Mrs. Salamat was saying. How do we encourage people? How do we help? The idea is that the issue of success rate actually brought about the establishment of what they call Horizon Europe Nigeria, whereby EU is collaborating with Nigeria's tertiary institutions, whereby they have a program now where they encourage people to apply to that particular program. So now we have a dedicated website where we have a lot of calls coming from Nigeria that Nigerians could also apply. So I would advise people to also go to that website and check those calls. They are there. So we can apply to those calls. That's one. Another thing is when you look at MSCA, the good thing about it is that it's open to all the disciplines. That's one. The other thing is that you could apply from anywhere in the world. But again, that becomes a double-edged sword because it makes it a bit more competitive. So you could see, now in my own case, the first one it was 80%, I think 84%. The second one, 84.something%. Then the third one, 89%. So you could, and now I even heard about somebody who got 92% and was not chosen. So it's a bit competitive as we speak. So don't really blame people as such as if they are not successful. They're actually successful. It's just that the program has become a bit more, competitive, so to speak. That's one. But the good thing about that is this. That's what they call MSCA Seal of Excellence, which will also, speaks to TEDFund, what TEDFund does within our system. It's called MSCA Seal of Excellence. And what does that do? Once you got a score above 80%, I think 80 or 85%, they give you a Seal of Excellence. And what does that do? If you know a particular country who will take that on board, then you could apply. Then they will take you. Meaning, if you are not making the cut with the EU, you could actually apply to those other countries and they will take you. Because the idea is that you're already successful, the proposal has already been assessed, and it's been found worthy, so they could actually go along with it. So how does that relate with us in Nigeria? I would say TEDFund could also do the same thing. Once you see an applicant scoring above 80%, it means something is in there in that proposal that they could also use. So why can't you just pick them up and fund them? For me, I think that would make a lot of sense because rather than saying they are not being successful, blah, 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 we could actually bring those guys on board who are already doing well. I mean, if somebody had 85%, that's good enough. So I think some of our funding agencies could actually go ahead and fund those particular proposals. That way, we have quite good numbers who will be successful at the end. Thank you.
Okay. Maybe Margherita want to complete on this success rate help for a future applicant?
It's tough. Preparing a proposal, by the way, we are national contact point for EIT, EIC, that stand for European Innovation Council, European Technology Innovation
Technology.
Yeah. So we are here also to help partners in building consortium and preparing proposals. But the horizon in particular is extremely competitive. I mean, average, the outcome is, positive outcome is 15, success rate is 10–15%, and then it depends on the cause. So it's not a problem of Nigeria. It's very competitive across the board. It's a matter of having, responding very, very clearly and to the point to the cause, expected outcome and impacts. It's a matter of having a consortium that is very credible, that includes the skill and competences required by the call and the activities. It means that the budget is developed and it's again credible. It takes a lot of time in a collaborative manner to write a proposal. We're talking months, not weeks. So it's an investment, but it's also, when we say failure, I mean, it's always disappointing when a proposal is rejected, of course, but it's also an opportunity to build working relationships with other universities and partners. I mean, we had lost a lot of proposals, but it was much faster and easier to follow up on another call and restart another discussion with those excellent partners. So it's not, I wouldn't blame Nigerians for failure, honestly.
Can I put a word?
Yes, please.
I think also it's important to choose your topic carefully. Let it be very relevant and have impact, the work that you want to do. Then if you or your institution have some comparative advantage, then it's easier to say this is what we bring to the table for the other consortium to complement. That really can make your position very strong. So a topic that's going to have impact, that's going to, and then you justify it properly, and you say, look, my institution, for example, my institution has, is renowned for Lassa fever work, for infectious disease work. So if you're going to do any work on Lassa fever, COVID, monkeypox, and you see the name of my institution, then it automatically rings a bell. So I think the topic matters. Have your strength that you bring to the table so that it can be complemented by your partners. I think those matter. Then of course, the way to succeed, it may be going through some failure periods. It's just normal. It was on our third application that we eventually got one, and then we've applied for another one. And we are hopeful that we will get again, and it continues like that.
So don't be afraid to fail if you want to be successful. I think that's the lessons we hear. You want to, because I'm trying to wrap up. So
just a quick one, just to add to it. One other reason why proposals fail is people write proposal in hurry. Such a highly competitive proposal, you spend time to prepare. And you don't go with just your own straight mind. You read minds and bring those ideas. That's why I was talking about objectivity and then criticism. Within the consortium, we must be able to critique very well, because the reviewer stands as a school of thoughts. And so different schools of thought will know how to think about it and then get it out. So the issue of time and the issue of really getting to the root of what is important. And they also look at the potential impacts. How deep will this go? And it's very important to factor that into the proposal. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we have used the hour, and we started late when it's late. But Commissioner, you wanted to say something earlier. I didn't give you the floor, and I think it would be nice if you have the opportunity to say a few closing remarks. What did you learn from this successful panel today?
Thank you very much. I mean, firstly, what an impressive panel. I think the depth of experience and capacity on the panel is one that I'm particularly proud of. But I was going to ask a question, and especially to the professor that is working on Lassa fever. Are you working with any pharmaceutical companies at this level? And of course, for the professor on food systems, because I was just thinking, in Lagos, we import 80% of our food, you know, from outside sources. So how involved are you with, you know, agricultural companies? Because I find that in Nigeria, and this is from our own experience in Lagos State, we fund a lot of R&D projects. At any point in time, around 70 across different sectors. But there's a huge gulf, you know, between those projects and industry, and how we tie those links together. And I'm particularly concerned about applied research. You know, you thought about, you talked about writing proposals in a hurry. How linked are we to making sure that some of these proposals are very relevant and they actually apply to industry problems? Because I think we have a huge gulf in this country in that regard. In the US, 30% of R&D funding comes from public sources, but 70% is from private sector, right? Even companies have their own research labs. I mean, most of us have an iPhone today. The iPhone would not have been possible if there wasn't a company called Xerox that had the Palo Alto Research Center, and a lot of the work in that place came out. So I'm particularly concerned about that industry tie-up because I think that would really help the commercialization part. I don't know if anybody has just a few words on that.
Yes, that's a few.
Thank you, Honorable Commissioner. We're trying, like I said, it was a platform trial, and we're trying several drugs. The standard of care drug right now is ribavirin. So that's the control arm. We're doing a phase 2 trial. So the drugs we are trying are drugs that have gone through development, preclinical trials, phase 1 trials, and found safe and tolerable to humans, effective, shown good efficacy in animal studies. So it's at that stage we now try the drug. The other drug we're trying is favipiravir. It's one of the arms. The company is Toyama in Japan, and we're discussing with the manufacturer. Then we have other arms that are trying to combine ribavirin and dexamethasone, ribavirin and favi. And there's some other drugs that are still in development. They've not yet gone through phase 1 in the countries of manufacture. If they go through phase 1, they've gone through preclinical trials, found effective in animals, then they go through phase 1, they are safe and tolerable before we see if they are efficacious. And we're discussing with those companies also. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Commissioner. I want to talk on the academic industry relationship. Actually, in this program that I'm just shared with you, we were in Siegen last year, March, for one of the trainings, preparatory to the takeoff of the project. And what we observed was that the hands-on is very, very impressive. the practical session, we are in the lab and we are made to, work on some projects. And immediately at the completion of the project, it didn't just stop there. We had to, take it off from there, the software, put it in an FPGA, and took it to an industry for implementation. And you could see the output, your own work, being implemented in industry, so that is something that, is very impressive, and it spurs, passion that you want to, continue to do it, because you can see the effects of what you have been able to do in the laboratory. So I think, just like you have said, there's a wide gulf between research and practice, and we need to bridge the gap. Once we're able to do that, I'm telling you, we have a vibrant and very energetic youth population in this country, and of course they can take us further to development. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Well, that's a very good question, and let me first say that the aquaculture industry, the aquaculture production in Nigeria is private sector driven. So most of the people we are taking this product to, they are already into it. And how do we get this thing across to them is by exposing to them that this thing is available. And then telling them this is how to achieve it. And that's exactly what we are doing. Now we are bringing people in clusters, and there's also going to be a cascade funding to support people that want to go into some of the sectors of what we are trying to do, and even beyond. So what we do is we are bringing people in batches to train them, and it's open, it's free. So people can come maybe from industry or from anywhere, you train them, this is how to do this, and this is how to do this, and this is how to do it. And we are targeting especially the youth and the women in a way to empower them, because part of what we do in the project is business modeling. We are bringing business models out of these things that we are talking about, which the youths and the women can be empowered with. So we are already building the aspect of getting to the private sector into the proposal.
So, thank you. I think we need to close. You really want to say? Okay. 1, 2 sentences.
I'll make it quick. Well, I'm just going to respond to what the Honorable Commissioner was trying to say about bridging the gap between the private sector and the academia. For me, I think one important thing we need to be doing is to make a demand-driven R&D. That is it. Until we begin to do that, we're still going to be coming back here and saying the same thing. And most especially within the tertiary institutions, most of our PhDs, how many of them are demand-driven? Very few. So until we begin to look in that direction, I'm sure we are still going to come back here and still saying there's a gap between the industry and the academia. Thank you.
Okay, so Commissioner, I hope you're convinced by the responses that those issues are well addressed. I think we are running late, so I would like the whole audience to give a round of applause to our brilliant panelists.